Hey, what's up, YouTube? This is Sam Crane, creator of FlyRight, and today I'm just going to do a quick tutorial on how to create the dev environment for FlyRight. We have Docker Compose scripts set up so that it's just one line, and ideally, if everything goes as planned, you should have a full instance of FlyRight on your computer. So that's a database instance, the backend, as well as the web app. So this is what it should look like at the end. You'll see this page. You should be able to log in with admin password. That should be all automatically done, and then you can create flights. This flight wouldn't be here. As well, you should be able to get into the administrative panel, and you'll see this page, admin password. And you should be able to get in. So, how do we get to that point? Well, first off, check out the documentation here. We go through and just talk about the fact that Docker and Docker Compose are the first two things you need, and really the only things you need for this whole code base. And if you haven't used Docker before, it's really incredible for deployments. It's like a bash file on steroids. You know, on top of the fact that there's a script for every aspect of how you create the containers that you put your code into. The containers themselves are segregated from the rest of the operating system, such that, for example, for the backend, for the API, it's running on Ubuntu 18.04 instance. The front end, though, is just one of the Docker node instances, so it's just a very lightweight Linux distro. And so each of them can be very consistent and specific to what you need. I think the coolest thing, we haven't set this up yet, but I've got this on other projects, is you can actually put Nginx into another container. Whereas for DevOps, what I've found when I try to deploy the software is that can be kind of annoying, just getting that all set up. And depending on whichever operating system I'm on, it can all become a pain. But just having even the Nginx into another container just makes the whole thing way easier. And then Docker Compose is an orchestration platform. So it takes Docker and then it allows you to create a script that orchestrates all these individual components. So I'm going to show you the files themselves real quick, and then we'll go ahead and use them. So this is the main file you'll use. This is the base. This is kind of the development Docker Compose file. You'll see there's a couple services. So database. So we're using PostGIS, and that is Postgres with GIS capability, and that's really necessary for this stuff, obviously, given that there's so many flights and the actual location of the flights are important. That's really all there is to that one. It's not too complicated. So when you try to run it, it will yell at you if you don't have a database.environment file. You can just create one and leave it empty. That's it. There's no need to do anything other than that. But why it's there is so that if you do want to change one of these values, you can do it without modifying something that won't be consistent with everyone else using using this repository. It's a way to keep secrets, basically. All the secrets ideally are done through these environment variables. So for example, admin password for the super user, you might not want that. So you can go ahead and change that in here. Though you'll have to change it as well with the web. But yeah, so this is the business logic server. It runs, basic version of Django, just like through manage. In a prod version, you'd probably want to use Unicorn, but for this is fine. It exposes port 8000, so that's why I can, run it on the browser through localhost 8000. And then finally, the web app. And this is the actual the web app interaction that you saw, port 8080, but it also interacts with the business logic. And again, for both of these, you can have environment variables. You can change certain things about this. The one thing actually with the web that's a little unique is that just Node.js is sandboxed. So changing those variables is actually a little bit more difficult. It can't find these variables. I'm trying to figure out a way to get around that. So for now, they're actually somewhat hard-coded, but the rest of these are not. So, at any rate, so I'm going to go ahead and bring it down because they're up right now. You wouldn't have to do this. You can see that there are 3 containers though: the business logic server, database, and the web. As you can see, database, business logic, web. There will be more probably as we set up other aspects of this. And then what I'm going to do is Docker compose. This is all assuming that you install Docker and Docker compose. There are links to places that will show you how to do that given your instance, given whatever operating system you use. And it's relatively straightforward, but let me know if that's not. I can do a tutorial on that as well. So we're going to do Docker compose up. So that means create the services that you see in this Docker compose file. And then we're also going to do D, which means do in the background. And then I'm going to do build. Now, if I didn't do build, it would say, are there instances here? If so, go ahead and use those. I think that's a little counterintuitive. Took me a second to realize that. But -- build forces it. So even if there are instances, don't use that. Go ahead and build everything. So I'm going to run that, and you can see all the different aspects of this running. And actually, so within business logic, we have a Docker file. So that's what's running here. Ubuntu Bionic, that's our instance, working directory, environment variables that we're setting. This is all for GIS capability with Postgres. So that, like I said, you can put down map coordinates, because that's not really a standard thing for a database. Go ahead and get Python 3.7, upgrade. The requirements file describes all the different requirements you need for this project. And then copy everything and then go to the entry point. The entry point just makes the migrations. I'm just trying to do this tutorial for someone that might be not accustomed to all this stuff, so I'll explain everything, probably too much. But migration is just how you change the structure of a database. And since there's no database at this point, you're just going to create the whole thing. So you make the migrations, all the rules on how to build this database, and then you migrate here. Say that you migrated, and then create super user. So here we're not only doing creating super user. I think I could probably rename that, but you can see that you check to see if the super user is here. If not, you go ahead and create one. And then on top of that, make an application. So this uses OAuth. And OAuth, again, they're great tutorials on what that means. If you've ever used some kind of third-party API with something like Google or Facebook, it's just a good way to allow other applications to interact. And that's kind of what we want to do. We want FlyRight to have data that other applications can access. So that's why it's OAuth. So you go ahead and save that application, and the web app actually already knows these details before the application is created. That's how it can interact. That's how the web app can grab data from the business logic server. Okay, and as you can see, this all has been created. So we're going to go check the Docker. If you're not using PyCharm, I highly recommend it. If not, there are definitely GUI options for seeing this stuff. And, of course, you can always use Docker to check what's live. But yeah, as you can see, so the business logic server is working. This is actually a notification feed. So that means that my web app is live and it's looking for notifications. You get notifications if you're, if you create a flight registration and someone updates it saying, gives you clearance, or vice versa. If you're the air boss of an area like downtown Atlanta, Georgia Tech Police Department is the air boss, then they can set the clearance. But all you need to know right now is that this is working. This is what you should see. And then the database is good. You can see, if you look at the details of it, you can see that it's just setting itself up to be PostGIS capable. And then finally, this is the web app. So we're going to go in here. I'm going to reload this. And you can see I got logged out because everything was rebuilt. Nothing stayed the same. Oh wait, I think I did the password was Lawrence for the longest time because she was one of our advisors for this project. I don't know why. But yeah, as you can see, everything works. I already did this, but it will ask you to give your location. Yes, say yes or no. I'm not stealing your data, but it is nice that the map goes directly to where you are. So that really sums up how to get this working live on your local instance or desktop. I'm going to be doing more tutorials on other things. I think the next thing I want to go over is how do you create a department? Because this is the live instance right now for Georgia Tech. If you go in here, you can see that I'm also an air boss and I have a department. And that's the next thing I want to look at and also check it out. I'm pretty proud of this. There's like a consistent usage of this. This is in the summer too. So, but yeah, regardless, that's the tutorial. Let me know if this was helpful, what else you might need to know, and thanks for watching.